Hello my honeys and welcome to my Kyoto Airbnb tour. Yay! Alright, let's hop into the nitty-gritty at first. This Airbnb is located 2 train stops away from the Arashiyama bamboo forest area. It is a little bit tucked away from the main hullabaloo of the craziness of Kyoto, so it is absolutely ideal and perfect if you are a family or just a couple or a single person wanting to escape the crowds and experience what it is actually like to stay in a modern/traditional style Japanese home. This home costs around roughly $200 USD per night per single guest. It is a little bit more if you have a 2-person staying at this place, so do keep that in mind that this is definitely not the most budget-friendly Airbnb, but that is because you are getting an entire traditional house when you stay in this Airbnb. It is located in a quiet, tranquil area that backs onto a mini bamboo forest that is super nice and secluded and private. If you're staying as a couple like we did, there is one main bedroom that you'll be staying in, while the other bedrooms will not be accessible, which we did find a little bit surprising when we came into this place since we were booking an entire Airbnb and not just a private room, which you will see throughout the duration of this tour. So the first room that I'm showing you is the main sleeping room for guests, and the more guests you have, the more spaced out you will be throughout the Airbnb, going all the way up to the upper levels. And then lastly would be the engawa room, which is definitely the most desired room, but this room that we're staying in is probably the second best out of all of the rooms because you get that traditional vibe. You get this entire attached living space where you can sit on a heated blanket on the traditional tatami floors, enjoy coffee and tea and your breakfast and your meals right in your room, and it is conveniently next to the bathroom and the kitchen area. With that said though, there were some pros and cons to staying at this Airbnb, and a lot of them were just miscommunications on the listing and between myself and the host. Now, like I said before, this is an entire house listing on Airbnb, but when we arrived, our host greeted us and told us that we were not allowed to go upstairs into other rooms and that we were not allowed to sleep in the engawa room, which was a little bit surprising since based on the rate of the place being $200 USD a night and that the listing was advertised as an entire house, it was a little bit surprising to be told we weren't allowed to utilize all the space in the Airbnb booking, which felt extremely misleading and a little bit deceptive, to be honest. So if you are considering booking this Airbnb, definitely keep that in mind so you're not totally surprised like we were, and it definitely set a bad tone for our stay, but that quickly got pushed to the side the first morning that we woke up and we experienced the beautiful sunrise in the engawa room. Now, you can have tea and coffee and sit in this beautiful, stunning traditional engawa room. However, you're just not allowed to sleep in it. And during our 3-night stay, we completely understood why the host was doing that, and it is because this is not an individual house, it is actually an annex of the host's house. So you can see out this window right here, the other balcony with the flowers and the door, that is where the host and her family lives, and it is completely attached to the annex part of this house. So it is a multi-family home originally, where they decided to rent out an Airbnb short-term rental, the annex part of the house. So it makes sense that they do not want their guests prioritizingly sleeping in this beautiful engawa room because there is a door right behind this kimono sash here that connects to the kitchen, it seems, of the host's living space. So it makes sense they don't want the guests that close to the family, because in the morning when we were having our coffee here with the sunrise, we definitely heard the family next door, preparing their breakfast and stuff. So that was a little bit surprising and not very clear in the listing, but it didn't bother us too much throughout our stay. But this engawa room, I was so excited about. It's totally my style and what I've always wanted to experience in a traditional Japanese home. But I definitely felt a little disappointed that we weren't allowed to sleep in it, as I was totally under the impression that that would be the main bedroom that you would be sleeping in and not just a place that you can go and sit in and enjoy. But with that being said, the fact that we still were able to have access to this room to enjoy its absolute stunning traditional beauty made me happy nonetheless. With that said though, because you can see into the family's door to their living space, it definitely has a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling to be using this room too much for your own pleasures, just because there isn't much privacy if you just have the shears. So it's not somewhere that you should just hang out. And that is the way that we felt when we were here. But otherwise, even though this is an annex side of the host's family home, you do have your own private entrance and private kitchen with a private bath. But the kitchen definitely was a little small and outdated, but with older traditional Japanese home, this is kind of like a very traditional standard to be expected kitchen. But coming from other parts of the world, you might be a little shocked by that, but it's definitely to be expected. This is the main floor bathroom that you have to use, and it did seem quite nice and spacious with the bidet. However, it had the worst urine smell I've ever experienced in an Airbnb, and I think with the rate that this host is charging per night of a minimum of $200 USD, that they could definitely redo the tiling on the floor to get that urine smell out of the grout, because it was just really foul and nauseating most of the time. So I found I had to hold my breath whenever I went in there. Otherwise, this is the laundry and shower bathing room, which you can tell that they somewhat recently renovated space where the laundry is. They have a nice new unit sink there, which was good. The floors felt new, but the shower and bath aspect of this space was definitely a little dated, and it did feel a little dirty, especially given the rate that you're paying. It wasn't nice that they left the cleaning scrubs and the cleaning solution on the bathtub as well. That just felt a little gross to see. But one of the features that I did like about this space was the heated units in both the rooms. Now, this gives me the impression that this house does get cold in the wintertime, which is a bit to be expected with older Japanese homes. So it was just so nice to be able to turn those on in the evening and have them help to dry you off after a shower or a bath. Now, this is where the listing got interesting and the experience with the host got interesting. So they said when we arrived, we are not allowed to go upstairs, like at all, which was like super sus and upsetting, because like I said before, this was an entire house rental listing. So that was extremely misleading and definitely a shock to be told upon arriving at this rental that we're not allowed to go upstairs. And then I saw these keys on the other bedroom doors, which had me thinking like, oh, is this a share house? Like, are other people staying in here? And that was just really off-putting for me. Even the fact that the upstairs bathroom was significantly nicer and more updated than the lower level was a bit disappointing, since the lower one that we were told we could use smelled like urine, heavily smelled like urine, while this one was very nice, very modern, very clean. So that was definitely really kind of a turn off for this Airbnb. But seeing the keys there and these prepared rooms definitely gave me the impression that this used to be or is sometimes rented out as a share home for maybe international students or international travelers, as a multi-living situation, which is fine. And it was comfortable to know that during our booking there was nobody staying there. But again, being told that we weren't allowed to access the entire house when it is exactly what we booked was extremely upsetting and off-putting. Mind you, of course, if we went up here and saw that there are prepared beds, we would obviously be smart and not use them or mess that up. But I get it that the host is probably just telling us that so that she doesn't have to clean each room after we stay. But once again, definitely not a good feeling to have when you arrive at a place where you spent so much money per night and rented it under the pretense of an entire house to yourself. There were definitely cons to this stay, but a lot of that had to do with miscommunication from the host and also being told we weren't allowed to utilize the entire house. However, if you go into renting this place with that in mind, then it definitely would be a much better experience. At the end of the day, we loved our stay here and it gave us exactly what we wanted to experience. However, it would be a lot better if the listing clarified that this is an annex of a Japanese family's home, so you will be able to hear the family next door, and you won't have access to the entire house unless your party can accommodate that. But otherwise, this was such a stunning stay, and I hope you guys enjoyed this super honest Airbnb tour video. Bye!